So you said within your 50-year career, you haven't really changed much on how you conduct your trials. Is that true? Is that what you were saying?
The methodology has changed very little.
So I guess what has been something that you've kind of picked up on in the years that it's been necessary to change or been beneficial?
GPS, there was no such thing as a GPS when I started out in the early 70s. That has been huge, and it's something I'm still trying to wrap my head around. All of our trials go to yield. Okay, and not all of them use that small plot combine, which captures the information pretty much as they're going through the field. One of the things that we did not want to do when we started this contract research company was buy a $500,000 plot combine. We weren't even sure this contract research company was going to make it, much less borrowing that kind of money. So the large trials, we use the grower's combine. Okay, and the reason I brought that up is because of GPS technology. They're capturing that information as the combine goes through the field. They use field view, they use climate, sends up in the cloud. Our Ohio number cruncher goes up in the cloud, grabs it, prepares me a spreadsheet, and tells me what the weight of each block out of that trial.
This brings up an interesting point of, I guess, I got something in the back of my mind that I can't really speak about on here, but how important is stand count at harvest?
It's huge.
So if you could know that in a real-time scenario, stand count at harvest, do you believe you could predict a row-by-row yield based off of that?
I think it would show you a trend, but I don't know that you could really predict the yield based on stand count. I'd have to see a lot of data points before I would be willing to go that far. One of the things we have to make sure of, and that's one of the reasons you and I have been having a conversation about our plot planner, is we have to be consistent. The growers that we deal with are very consistent. We have to know that whatever population of corn they want, if they want 37,000, there's 37,000 out there. Otherwise, our treatment results are going to vary based on plant population, and we can't have that happen unless it's a true population study. I have to depend on these guys that know how to plant corn, how to plant soybeans.
How long before you move to an application per seed instead of an application per acre, a rate per? Right now, our mines in a 2x2, different scenarios like this, right, is a rate per acre. I want 15 gallon, I want 7 gallon of in furrow. How long before you give each little seed a little vitamin packet to grow off of?
I think we're moving in that direction. How quickly? I think it's coming quicker than what we anticipated. And
From a research standpoint, is that something that, because it's doable now, and stuff like that, but how long, and it takes a while to believe in this stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Right? I mean, it's one thing for a manufacturer to come out with something and say, oh, well, this works. This is the best. Right? You guys have these people knock on your door saying, we're the best. Right? I guess how long does that take?
One of the things is it's going to be labeling. Okay, with the method that you just described as far as application, what's that label going to say? How long is it going to take them to get there before they can actually have that language on their label? Gotcha. In order for them to do that? Of course, having said that, some of these products are not listed as pesticides, so it does not require an EPA label. But you're still going to have to come up with the label language, and you're going to have to figure the average grower, is he going to be able to put this out? Or are we going to such a small percentage of growers that are capable of making that type of application? Is it even feasible?
So you guys are talking about a seed that already has certain vitamins and stuff with it that'll help it grow. Is that what you're talking?
In essence, like, yes, for general speaking, yes. Instead of saying we're going to apply a dribble, and it's just going to go on at a constant rate because we're doing a constant speed, and here's our target rate per acre, right? It is saying there's a seed, and we're going to put it within a band, and here's the fertilizer packet around it, and stuff. And that has been a focus of some of our companies that we offer. They're trying to get they are offering a rate per seed.
Gotcha.
So it's like you getting one vitamin C in the morning. Well, that's what you need. You're not saying you're awake for 12 hours, and I mean you need that vitamin C, and it's saying that little
Specifically for
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And if
Gotcha.
it's so where that changes things is this. Chris was saying 37,000 was the target rate, but maybe we're at 34,000. Well, actually, at 34,000, each one of those seeds has more fertilizer available than the ones that had at 37,000, right? Mm-hmm. So as you do turn compensation, as you go around contours, as things speed up and slow down, I guess I don't think we're very far from research practices and exactness, attention to detail, starting to infiltrate into row crop, production, live stream production and stuff. Maybe not to the exact same scale, but I think it could be like, man, some people look at it like you're trying to split hairs. But
you're feeding soil in the absence of seed, because the distance between those two
Right.
seeds, I mean, there's a certain part of it that needs it. How far away from the seed do you need? I don't know.
But sometimes what you can jump into is a lower cost, fertilizer application that's 2 inches off the road. The stuff that's in the furrow is more expensive, right? It's got a low sulfur. It can't be low salt content. Sorry, not low sulfur. Low salt content. It can't burn the seed. So that stuff costs more per ounce than what the stuff out here does. It's not saying that it will never use it, but it can use this cheaper
Gotcha.
type thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's interesting.
It's more's not always better.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
more can be wasteful, essentially. I mean, and stuff.
Gotcha.
Through your trials throughout the year and stuff, do you guys take stock samples and stuff like that, saying, well, the nitrogen, and maybe it's not even nitrogen trials you're doing, but you guys cutting stuff out of there? And
We don't normally. A lot of it has to do with how the protocol is designed. With our normal trials, our normal 24 trials, we do not do that. We used to do stand counts, and when you mentioned salt, one of our carriers is 1034.0 in our starter. Mm-hmm. We use 5 gallons. We don't use 6. We don't use 7, because we learned over the course of time that has no negative impact on the plant population. So we quit taking plant populations anymore because there's nothing negative. I still have companies push back. We don't like you doing 1034.0. Well, then don't participate in the trial.
all right.
What do you mean? 5 gallons, not 6. It's not 7. It's not 8. We know 5 gallons is a stopping point where we do not see any negative. We've never recorded a negative effect in all the years and all the sites we've done 5 gallons of 1034.0.
So doing these trials, how much attention does it take? Is it like an everyday thing? You got to be
How
there.
often are you at the field?
Yeah. How often do you have to actually be there present?
Believe it or not that often. I want to make sure, Travis, you've seen our flagging technique. I have to be able to row the corn before we can flag it. I have to be able to row the soybeans and at that point, take into consideration our initial application is V5, V6, V7. It's my responsibility to stage that site so we know about when that V5, V6, V7 is. So, that's my responsibility. Mm-hmm. Then we make the application. Well, then we're going to finish the flagging event. Then we're going to make the application. When do we go back? On the corn, we don't go back for a while. Why? Our goal is yield. What else? Yield. What else? Yield. It's
Gotcha.
all about yield.
Gotcha.
I don't care if your product turns the corn a darker green. I don't care if it makes the leaves spread out. It's all about yield. If you don't show me yield,
This
the
trial's
end
not for
result.
you.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and that, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? We used to take visual color observations. Really? Do you think that's important to a grower?
It could be purple, but if it makes more corn.
Yeah, so it's all about the yield.
Yeah.
So we're not, now we may have some specific protocols where they're asking for specific information, and they want us to see that site every 7 to 14 to 21 days. So we do that. But with our corn starter trials, we don't do that. With our corn and soybean foliar, we don't do that. I'll go back, put eyes on them, and and make sure that everything looks normal.
Do you
That's
get
about it.
into pesticides and insecticides and trials like that as well, or do you not?
We do. I've got some companies that will approach me because they know I'm a weed scientist. Well,
Okay.
can you do a herbicide trial? Well, tell me more about it. Well, we've got this particular product that we want to evaluate. Okay, maybe I'm interested, maybe I'm not. You need to show me that you may have something. We've helped companies label herbicides before because I had enough interest that I wanted to see whether performance was there or not. We've done a few insecticide trials. We do a bunch of fungicide trials.
This is going to be this is probably going to be shocking. I have a kind of an idea in my head here, but from the time a company develops a product, I don't want to say idea hits the table. From the time they have something to put out the door from a testing scenario, saying, "Hey, here's our 7 ounces of all. This is all we have," right? Till it's labeled and on the shelf for purchase. Do you know the time frame on that, or what do they have to go through?
Probably talking 10 to 15 years. This would be the pesticide part of it. That something has to go through EPA labeling. You're probably talking about 10 to 15 years.
And it can get turned off at any point.
At any point in time.
Because EPA could be like, no,
Yeah.
no, it's not happening.
Your product is too persistent in the soil. We're seeing, when we put out at a higher dosage, we're seeing negative effects. I worked for pesticide companies for a long time, so I experienced a lot of this. You could see this product coming along, this looks great, dead. It's over with.
Which all of that feeds into the cost per ounce we pay for other products, because that is still their continued R&D in the background, essentially, right?
How is the price of a product determined? What the market will bear.
Yeah. Yep. And then it's all competitiveness with that's out there and stuff. So the as we move going forward here, with this is going to kind of lead into more of a see and spray, right? We have a I don't want to say a big push. There's a lot of hype. I think it's going to be cost prohibitive for a good while. For the general purpose ag use of see and spray technology. What do you think is going to happen from the providers, the manufacturer's standpoint with this? If you're looking at a reduction of 90% chemical usage on the market, right? Yeah, I see you smiling.
The price is going to go up.
There you go. There you go. So
how much is the see and spray technology going to cost? It's going to be considerable because it's going to be smarter than a regular old sprayer. That's by design. Is that going to help as far as weed control? It can if it's utilized properly. But in order for these companies to stay afloat, they're going to have to charge more for their product.
and they're not going to take a 90% hit to their bottom line. They're very large, very smart companies. I mean, it's yeah. So that I think that's one thing that needs to be, kind of aware of what's out here. And we actually have a sprayer with see and spray on it in the back room back there. And yeah, man, that is pretty neat. And stuff. But specialty crops, there's a lot of high value, high cost items. You're not running a Roundup, for lack of better terms, across a field with this type of application. Correct. I think it's something totally
But as
different.
a farmer, you're basically going to be pushed into doing it, right? I mean, if you still have regular sprayer, right, without seeing
section
spray,
control.
yeah, and then all the prices go up like that, I mean, are you
Yeah, I wonder if
basically
it-
forced into buying it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how long or how far it'll get from that. If that's the way the market goes, and they say, well, will there be specifically labeled products for that use?
I think there will be, yes.
Much like a turf, there's re-entry timelines they put on a lot of those turf products that makes them more expensive than what they could buy off the shelf at Rural King per se, right? You look at the label and it may say the same thing, but I'm not a chemical,
But if you look at the grower mentality and the grower approach, there are some growers that really embrace new technology. They want it, they're going to buy it, they're going to utilize it. Then for every one of those growers, there's another one that says, what do I need to change?
Exactly right.
What I'm doing works. It's economical. I know how to run it.
I've paid my bills for 20 years doing it this way.
Yeah, so no.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But if the market, like you said, I think there's going to be a split. I think there's going to be this is the type of use this is for. And how will they regulate that? I'm not quite sure yet. But I think there will be some kind of reporting or regulation saying this is what it is. Because maybe that's a more concentrated dosage or something like that. I don't know. But we're very quickly, the electronics and the technology, the technical ability to do something has and is surpassing the mechanical ability to do it. And we're going to be at a wall here before long where we're waiting on the mechanical ability for something to, catch up.
I agree.
So what would be that mechanical ability?
Well,
Do you have any idea?
What jumps in my mind is direct injection. Right away. We're talking about sprayer and we're talking about application, right? We have individual nozzle control on sprayers now, which is phenomenal. You have, pressure control. It's at the right pressure. And it's at the right rate through your speed ranges, right? But if you have direct injection, and we work with some research farms, you're injecting an amount per acre, a rate per acre, through a product line that's 20 foot long that has to go down a boom that's 60 foot in each direction. Okay, shorten it up. Maybe it's 30 foot in each direction because there's a 60 foot swath width, right? But you have a lot of product that is already at a certain concentration present in the boom. Now you're going to try to section that down to 2 or 3 nozzles. Your direct injection is trying to slow down to just 2 or 3 nozzles dosage. By the time that product gets used, it's a wash. It doesn't. It's a waste of time. Mechanically, you cannot achieve what electronically we can, and stuff. So until we get a direct injection at point of spray, I'm gonna call it like at point of impact, on the boom. And what does that look like? It may look like a bunch of little CO2 cartridges. I have no idea. That's beyond me. But we are at a mechanical limitation now.
Gotcha.
With what we can do. So similar to what we were at before. The reason planting speeds stayed at around 5 mile an hour for a very long time, because we were at a mechanical limitation. We couldn't get the seed in the ground without deflection and, movement. Right now we've got the ability to put it down there. That doesn't mean we should do it at those speeds all the time, but it does let you have access to it where it's feasible and where it doesn't, degrade your performance. So, but yeah, I think we're well on our way to seeing some major changes within the ag. I'd like to have a see and squirt from a drone, not spray. I don't want to,
That would be cool.
Yeah.
The aerial application drone is still a new thing out there.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, it seems like it may be versed knowledge to us. And, we're like, oh, man, it's kind of old news sitting in this building. But every time we go out, look at the crowd and the attention you draw and how excited some people are. And then look how, there's the exact opposite reaction and others. I think they think we're a spy from another country and here to spy on their house maybe. I don't know. it's you wonder sometimes what goes through their head. But yeah. So let's see. What's one of the most exciting things I guess you've seen change over the years? I know you said GPS. How is logging the data? How is collecting the data? Has that process really, from a stand count? We can do very accurate stand counts from imaging and stuff like that nowadays. Is it better or is it worse? I mean, do you like?
I think it's better. I think it's a whole lot better. Excuse me. Being able to record the data like I described through field view and climate is huge because so much of it was done by hand. I mean, I can still remember, scales where you drove up on a scale with a truck on scales and you dropped in whatever the treatment was and you weighed it. And then maybe you took it off there or used a weigh wagon, and that was a good technique. But when you're capturing that information, when they go through that 150-foot block and they just sent that information up to the cloud, I know what the weight of that corn was in that 150-foot block. Besides the speed, I used to have to wait on this data to get this data. And now, once it goes in the cloud within 24 hours, I've got a spreadsheet.
I was going to say, you just handed me when we walked in here a 23 plot research book from what we participated in, and I want to say we participated in what we helped you guys do an application on is really all we did. We didn't do much, but I'm excited to go through that with you. How long did it take you to turn that in the past compared to what it would have now?
I'd still be waiting.
We'd still be waiting to
Yeah.
collect and on the notebooks to all come in.
Because some of these growers, even though they're good friends of mine, they say, you do understand my job is to make money. My job is not to send you data.
Yeah.
I'll get to the data whenever I can get to it, which is after the first of the year. And
Right.
they're done with all the holiday celebrations, and then here it comes. The book's out earlier this year than it's ever been before.
Really?
Of course, it's been an interesting evolution within the KOVA organization. One of the first times I ever presented that year's data, of course, it's a room mainly of men, and you can see their eyes are really rolling back in their head. They're kind of, here comes the data. Now it's evolved to I start getting text or phone calls. When's the data going to be ready? When's the data going to be ready?
That's exciting. That's exciting.
We're probably going to have to harvest the crop before we're going to have the data. So,
Where is the research heading in the future? And what's a limiting factor on what you guys can do
the limiting factor for us
besides manpower?
is that's it, is manpower.
That seems like that's a worldwide.
You've met my partner. He's 20 years younger than I am, and he still pokes fun at me because of my age, and we've known each other for over 20 years, so that has a lot to do with it. I tell people all the time, what's the limitation? There's two people, Mark, me, and that's it. How much can we do? We can only do so much. There's only so many daylight hours. There's only so many hours in a day, so many days in the week, and we're stretched. We can't find anybody to work, which, you blame COVID, you can blame a lot of different things, but you still can't find anybody. Where's the research going? The sky's the limit, literally. If you can think it.
The creativity is the limit on what
But, the manpower is going to be a limiting factor because somebody is going to have to put these trials out. And where are those people coming from? I'm aging out. My partner thinks I can do it till I'm 80 years old. Maybe I can. I still have enough interest. Brad and I have this conversation every November, December. He said, how much longer? I said, I'm going to give you the same answer I gave you a year ago. As long as you're happy with me, I'm happy with you, and my health holds out, I'm going to keep on doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play that much golf.
Mm-hmm.
I don't sit at home very well. Spring and summer, I got to be out doing stuff, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah, that's good. It's interesting that it doesn't matter the sector, the area, quality, caring people, right? Yep. It's still what matters.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much we automate this world. It still comes back to quality, caring people. And accountability and putting your name on a job and saying, hey, this is what it's going to be.
I'll give a shout out to you. I pretty much determined the first time we met that we would continue our relationship. Why? Quality. You know, it really comes down to people selling people. Whether or not you have the same values, whether or not your goal is to move the peg forward, and then how you go about that. We're continuing to cooperate. We will ramp that up in 24. We'll probably ramp it up even more in 2025. There are not that many people that I interact with anymore that are that interested in doing that. So the ones I do encounter, I value.
Well, I there's a lot of times, so there's different generational, I'm going to call it generational assumptions per se, right? You know, you've heard all the speeches, the Gen X's, Gen Y's, Z's, ABCs, whatever, right? And stuff like that. And I feel as if myself, and you guys know me, I feel like I'm an old soul. I feel like I was born in the wrong generation. I really do. Like, I wanted to follow you on the John Wayne ride earlier. I'm like, man, I can't say the same thing. I better keep thinking here, right? I was like, I could be Sundance Kid here, right? You know, but no, I think that it's interesting, and it's challenging as an employer to be able to merge all of that together, because the end result is you can't throw your hands in the air and say,
Right.
you know, you've got to figure out, and you got to be able to adapt and change what you do, and your rigid, you know, your probably rigid approach to managing people that's maybe worked for 20 years. But now taking it and saying, well, it may not work for my current workforce or my current, you know, potentials and stuff like that. And I think that's what's probably going to, not that this is off on a sidetrack, that's going to differentiate some businesses moving into the future, and how successful and, you know, stuff like that they are. But that's...
And you just nailed it as far as ag products research is concerned. You know, I go back to the same thing as me and Mark. Well, why don't you guys start doing this? Why don't you start doing that? When are we going to do that? You know, we're beyond our capabilities now. Now, I kind of get off on a tangent. We found a 15-year-old kid that's local. He doesn't live that far from Mark, and I'll tout him. I'm not going to name his name, but we found out he has initiative. I'm kind of, what? I didn't know 15-year-old kids
Had that.
initiative. He has manners. He has a work ethic. He's interested in what we're doing. I could tell that the first time we started working on a project. We want to bring him into the fold and help us, you know, start doing more of our research. Will that materialize? I don't know. We'll find out.
Right, and even if not, I've often said that it's nothing. You invest in people.
Correct.
Right, you invest in people, not positions. And if those people decide to better themselves, and maybe they see themselves as moving on to something else, you still wish them the best of luck every time, you know, and stuff. But yeah, it's relationships and it's people, and it doesn't matter the industry that it feels like we've had sit, you know, down in here with us and stuff. It seems like we talk about relationships and
It
stuff
overlaps,
like that.
yeah.
It does.
It does.
And,
Everywhere.
you know,
Yeah.
from financial advising to everything, it's relationships, and it's curious because it seems like everything that all technology is trying to replace relationships, and people, like, you know, you're going to you don't have to come to work no more. Like, you know, you're going to sit back here and you're going to work from home. Well, there goes some relationship. Here's your text. It's easier to text somebody than it is to phone call them. It's easier. You know, all of those types of things.
Order everything online.
Everything,
you know,
yeah. I mean, and you're scanning your own groceries coming out of the supermarket anymore. I mean, it's amazing how hard. And I get it from a numbers and business sense, but it almost feels like, man, there's got to be a reset at some point. Somebody's got a light bulb got to go off and say, I value people and relationships, and this is what's going to come out the other side.
If you think you're an old soul, an old school, you pale by comparison to me, because as I explained to a lot of these participating companies and the rep, in order for you to move forward with the product, I got to meet you. And they're kind of, what? Yeah. we can email back and forth, we can phone call,
Shake my
we can
hand.
text.
Look me in the
We're
eye.
going to have a meal together, and I'm going to bounce things off of you, and you're going to bounce them off of me. If you're not interested in a position to do that,
I love
sorry.
that. I love that. Well, I mean, that's exactly how businesses have survived for many, many years,
Correct.
and that's what it was all based off of. So I admire that. So, but, well, I don't know, Chris, do you have anything else?
I don't
No?
think so. And I'll kind of go. I value our relationship. We've not known each other that long, but once I proposed to you a research trial for 2023, I could tell how intrigued you were. And here we are. We conducted it in 23. We're already talking about 2024. I value that. I value your people. I've met a lot of them, and that's just part of. It's back to that relationship thing.
It is, and it's fun because it's not. And I think you'll echo this. Business relationships oftentimes start out as a business relationship, but so many times they turn into friendships and turn into so much more than just saying, oh yeah, we went out and we applied, we sprayed, whatever it is, right? It turns into a truly, how are you doing today? It turns into a caring about beyond the physical business side of things. It's beyond that. And that's what's really neat about, I think, ag in general. I think the people that are centered and in and around that, I don't think that's lost yet. I feel like most people that have to deal with ag, it turns into the relationship and a caring about the individual.
Those values are still there. I think that's one of the biggest things.
I came to Ohio, which is where I lived 23 years ago, last month, and I had to establish myself. And when you brought up about friendships, that reminded me of that. My goal was I had to develop a customer base. The next thing was to develop friendships. I don't have customers anymore.
No.
I have friends. I know the husband because that's normally the grower. I know the wife. A lot of times I know the kid. I know if their wife's a good cook or not. Mm-hmm. So I know whether I get invited to lunch to stay or not. So those types of things. And I know people have difficulty with that, and they kind of, why would you do that? Because it makes a much more comfortable atmosphere. That grower is more of a trusting person to me, and I to him. And it's just that brings back the fun aspect of it again. So when we get on the phone, we're poking fun at each other.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's great type of relationship to have.
Yeah, there's so many that come to mind right now. When you say poking fun at each other, I mean, they start cutting down at you and you're cutting down at them, and it's just it turns into fun.
One of the things, you've not been around me that much, but I can have a smart mouth, and you can tell I'm not originally from Ohio or Indiana. I'm from the South, so I talk a little bit slower. So I have certain growers that will call me. They don't have to identify themselves. Of course, the phone shows who they are now, and they're wanting a recommendation. And I'll just laugh, and I'll say, you do know this time of the year that it's $150 a minute. And they'll just laugh, and they'll say, well, I'm going to ask this real quick. And I'm going to say, yeah, but I'm going to answer real slow.
That's good. That's good. So, well, Chris, we do appreciate you,
Sure. Thank you for
stopping in here today. And
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It is. There's a lot to learn on this, and I'm excited to continue. And like I said, our knowledge is limited on what we.
I know. I knew probably nothing that we talked about. You knew of it, but on that basis. So this was a good learning aspect. So
Appreciate you coming over.
Thank you, Chris, for being on the show, and hope you guys enjoyed watching. And stay tuned for some more episodes.